And they're bringing out more opinions that, you know what, at the end of the day, the reason why these things keep going on in football is because some people let it. Well, we're talking about that, what happened with Lukaku, what happened in the MLS over the weekend, and then maybe we're waiting to see how that investigation turns out. But first things first, Zibby will tell you how to be a part of the show.
All right, the WhatsApp number is 0809 4440981. You can also tweet at Smooth981. We're streaming live on YouTube as well. Smooth981 FM Lagos. Hey, YouTube.
All right. So let's start with the first story of the day.
Oparanozie seals victory as Super Falcons hammer New Zealand 3-0. Monte Carlo Masters Novak Djokovic seals first win in more than a month. Tuchel's Bayern to keep going after City demolition. It's so weird to hear him and Bayern because just a few seconds ago, okay, maybe not a few seconds ago, it was him and Chelsea, but okay. Chelsea happy to be underdogs against Real Madrid, and that is according to Lampard. Milan must beware different Napoli approach, says Pioli. And Inter double at Benfica puts them on semi-final course. Australia end England's unbeaten run with friendly win. New York Red Bulls forward Dante Van Zier apologizes for using racist remarks in MLS match.
And that is the story of the day. And I was just saying that this thing may have happened only because it's America. Because we've heard several times when one player comes to complain that another player actually used, racial slurs towards him, and it becomes a he said, she said. But so far, the player has come out to apologize. The manager has come out to apologize, saying that at the time he thought the player should keep playing. But if he knew then what he knew now, that he would have immediately withdrawn the player. So everybody's apologizing. I was like, Italy, are these people not your mates?
It's a totally different thing there.
Because Italy upheld Lukaku's. Remember when I was telling about the Coppa Italia where Lukaku was given a second yellow and then a red card? It turns out that celebration he did was he was trying to shush the away crowd because they have been
the racist chants.
They have been doing racist chants all match.
Wow.
And so the referee gives me a yellow card because you know the rules. It's inciting the crowd.
Imagine that.
And then the Italian Federation, having information after the match, upheld the yellow card.
Imagine that.
They're like, you've been racially abused, but let's just punish you.
We'll still punish you for being this victim.
So that the balance will be okay.
Shame.
All right. So, but let's start from the first story where Super Falcons, are doing some great things, even if I still think John should be fired. But let's go.
Desire Oparanozie scored the third goal as Nigeria's women's national team Super Falcons claimed a morale-boosting 3-0 victory over World Cup host New Zealand at the Marden Stadium in Antalya on Tuesday.
Yes, so Super Falcons took advantage of course, in preparation to the World Cup. Women's teams all around the world are doing that. Took advantage of the window to play a few matches. US also beat Ireland yesterday. That was expected. But England lost to Australia. We'll talk about that. But the Super Falcons so far have now won 3 consecutive matches. And people are saying, "Oh, is this the turnaround we are looking at?" When the Super Falcons beat France, USA, Sweden, Japan, turnaround is complete. For now, let's just say the warm-up is looking good. Don't be looking for turnaround yet. This is New Zealand, and I know that they're co-hosts, but they're not superpowers when it comes to women's football. So let's temper our excitement with some judgment. But the good news is I was able to see Oparanozie in this team, play like the striker that this team looks like they need, holding up the ball, allowing the wingers to come into play. It was a fantastic one to see because the question with the Super Falcons had been sometimes, the big name players were either injured or couldn't travel. For Oparanozie, she was in China, so remember there was a lockdown at the time. And if she came out, she couldn't go back into her club. Was like, you're not going anywhere. And good thing they held her because they eventually won the title. So you had all that, and then Asisat would be fit for one game and then she will not be fit for 3 more games. So they had all that. But in the past 2 weeks, especially for this Turkey tournament, they had, their big name players just show up and available to play, and it was good to see that happen with the Super Falcons. Still not convinced about Wanju Waldrum, but a little more hopeful. I had only doom and gloom for the New Zealand Australia World Cup for Super Falcons, but now it's thawing a little bit, so I'm warming up. I'm warming up to the hope that at least they could go there and represent the country a little bit to some measure of their potential. Still don't think he should be given a new contract. Still think that he could have been replaced a long time ago, but we'll take what we can.
All right. Well, number one, Novak Djokovic. Well, good for him. His big qualifier, Ivan Gakov, in his first match in more than a month, and that means he has now got into the third round of the Monte Carlo Masters.
Yeah, and he was saying something like, "Oh, I know the win was an ugly one, but I just wanted to get over the line." I was like, Novak Djokovic, you win a lot of matches in an ugly way. This is not exceptional. But he was always bound to be rusty. Hasn't played since he lost to Daniel Medvedev. Remember the several tournaments that he couldn't make it because he was in the USA and his COVID status. Yeah, didn't let him play. So he was bound to be rusty, and it showed in the first set. Struggled a little bit, but still managed to win that one. In the second one, even if he did have some moments where the qualifier looked like he was going to get a few points which Novak Djokovic would normally not lose. At the end of the day, it returned to I would say service returned to normal in the second set, and he was able to win that by 6-2. So his next match would be against an Italian. We don't know which Italian yet, but we'll wait to see how it pans out. But this is Monte Carlo. He lives just around the corner. It's his home tournament. It's a Masters he's performed well at several times, so I expect him to come good at the end of the day. And you have to also remember the Monte Carlo Masters is going to be missing Rafa Nadal, Carlos Alcaraz, and those are two people I thought would be great contenders, and also Felix Auger-Aliassime. So let's see how this turns out for the rest of the cats on the circuit, if they can take advantage.
All right, Bayern Munich manager Thomas Tuchel held hope of a miracle comeback after his side's 3-0 loss to Manchester City on Tuesday in the Champions League quarter-final first leg.
Yeah, and if you ask me, tie over. It's a strange one. So when I saw Bayern Munich against PSG, on paper, you would say that they were a better, how would I put it, better articulated side, but that was because PSG has their own problems. A very out of form midfield, defensively vulnerable, the goalkeeper with moments of brain farts. That's all I can call it. So you expected that Bayern Munich would get the upper hand eventually in that matchup, but against Manchester City, whose sole purpose now in life, apart from chasing Arsenal down, their sole purpose now in life is just to win this UEFA Champions League, especially Pep Guardiola, to prove a point. It was always going to be a struggle. So yes, I expected the tactical brilliance that I saw for most of the first half, especially both managers coming out, and I was just like, look, this is football. It's supposed to be entertainment. Why am I struggling trying to read this match like it is rocket science? I didn't want to have that kind of struggle, but you were always going to have that struggle because you had a manager in Thomas Tuchel on the one side and a manager in Pep Guardiola on the other side. So you knew that the tactical brilliance was going to be the issue of the day. And it was toe-to-toe for a while. But then Rodri came out with this fantastic goal from nowhere. And I tell you, that was the only way at the time that the goalkeeper could have been beaten. It was the way he took the shot and then he curled it around the goalkeeper, which is what Leroy Sané tried to do a couple of times, but he didn't put enough bend in his own shots. And brilliant goal. Couldn't really blame anybody apart from the defense that maybe gave Rodri the opportunity, thinking he was going to pass the ball, but he took a shot. But just as it was looking good for Bayern, people were wondering were they going to be able to get one goal back. Just as it was looking good for them, Oparanozie, well, had a brain freeze. Lost his mind for a minute. gave the ball away. Goal came, and then for the third goal, it was just a bit as haphazard. And going on the other side, Bayern Munich were not their usual, fluid self when it came to scoring. So really, at the end of the day, it came down to maybe 8 minutes of poor play by Bayern Munich that has taken them out of this tie. So people say, oh, Bayern Munich were so poor. No, they were not poor all game. They had 8 minutes where they struggled. And in those 8 minutes, Manchester City was like, yep, let me take advantage right now. Exactly, it's time, to just stab them and leave the knife in there. So it was a tough one. I would say this for Thomas Tuchel, though. He's still reading the team. He's still getting it together. And Bayern Munich, for their own, or on their own part, haven't had a fantastic season. So ultimately, that has shown in this match. But even a few things that Thomas Tuchel should have done for me, I don't think Leroy Sané should have played for as long as he did. I think that Musiala should have been released a lot better, because he seemed to be fighting for position on the one hand, Kingsley Coman here, Serge Gnabry there, and then Leroy Sané, so he couldn't express himself as fully as he could. So those are the few things I think that Thomas Tuchel could look at. But then, like I said, he's just getting to know his team. He was hired only a few weeks ago, and maybe he can rejig that. Do I think that they can come back in Munich? I don't know. If they come back in Munich, it'll be great for me. I'm a happy spectator. I like comeback stories. But I think that Bayern Munich really have got this tie locked down. Manchester City have got this tie locked down. Maybe if Bayern Munich had scored one goal at the Etihad, it'd make the tie a little more open. But now it looks like a closed and shut case. But it's football. Right. And anything can happen.
Okay, do we want to read some messages?
Let's take some messages. Let's start with Mark Anthony here. He says,
good morning, Tega. I'm really not happy with you. Why aren't you happy?
Oh, really? We will. He says, Manchester City. Mark Anthony, we will take your complaints up the channels.
Absolutely, we will.
And then we'll get back to you on that. Emeka from Amuwo says,
so,
Umpakano.
Okay. Wow. Sounds like Oompa Loompa. Decided of all days to bring out his inner Harry Maguire against Manchester City. Yesterday is a day he'll wish to forget. As for Chelsea, their tactical approach against Madrid today should be to play long balls while saying the Lord's Prayer, because they'll need a big miracle to beat Real Madrid.
All right, so let's take this message from Tayo. Tayo says, Tuchel was totally undone by Pep. If he doesn't put his act together, the tenure as coach would be shorter than Nagelsmann. That thought he was doing training contributed to all three goals. All right. And then Josh says, good morning, Tega. I had all the hype for Man City last time because they beat Bayern by 3 goals. The English press already talking about them being champions. They seem to forget that the serial winners are still in the competition. Yes, not until Madrid is out of the competition, no team can dream about winning the Champions League. When we come back from the break, we'll take the message from EJK and all the other messages and maybe some phone calls.
Music on Smooth 98.1.
Moving, grooving music. Hey, come on.
Yeah.
I just realized that I dance like old people. No, I used to be a dancer. As people that knew me, I used to be the dancer.
Oh, you need to practice.
When I come into the party like this, everybody knows that the floor is about. I used to be the dancer. Now I'm dancing old people dance. Hey!
When you're just dancing the dance that was danced back then.
I dance like my mother used to dance. And I'm like, no, please sit down. Don't do that.
I am becoming my mother.
I'm so old. So I need all these young children to come and teach me what they dance now.
What do they dance?
All this leg walk and all these dance that they'll be doing like this. I don't have the energy to be doing all this something. But I will try. I will funky.
Just sway like a rich auntie.
Sway. And that's what people dance. As in my dance, you can dance it in church and dance in a party. It's not fluid.
What are you
Really, that's
Wow.
not right.
That's too much nowadays.
Yeah, wow.
I don't like it.
Checked inside the bags of Lafarge cement you took delivery of.
These
Inside
vagabond
Yes,
shoes
Lafarge
are
is
longing
customers
to
in the Lafarge
stray.
But you know some old
It's
people
happening
can
from the 10th
dance.
of April to the 15th
There was this
of
video on
May.
Instagram.
Which
This guy
old
was like
Uh-uh.
probably almost 70. The way the guy was breaking it down, a Niger guy, he was like, because it's not easy to do the running man. That dance is a full exercise. This guy was doing it
Have you
like
Have you seen R&B dance?
No,
R&B.
that's old. It still dances old people dance. He just has money. That's why people think the dance is fine. It's still old people dance. As in, I was like, Tega, a whole new life from the party. That's why I entered the party like this. My butterfly will take it.
Oh, the butterfly.
Yeah, let's go.
You're in the locker room on Smooth 98.1. It's Tega and Zibby here. 8:32. Tega talking about how she used to be a good dancer. Tega was a dancer. But, yeah.
Yeah, but that's old story now. Old news.
Oh.
All right, so let's take this message from Ejike and then we'll come back to the next story. But Ejike from Ogba says,
Thomas Tuchel may have been listening to the song titled I Believe in Miracles. 3-0 down is quite too much. They switched off for a few minutes and Man City capitalized in today's eggs in my face.
all right. And Cruz is listening to our conversation on YouTube. Yeah.
All right, it is what it is. Dance anyhow. Okay, well, let's get back to the story. Don't forget the WhatsApp number 0809 4440981. You can tweet at Smooth981 and catch the live stream up on our YouTube channel as well. Chelsea are looking forward to the challenge of being underdogs at Real Madrid in their Champions League quarterfinal first leg, and that game is today.
Yeah, that game. Yes. So Lampard talking about how they're underdogs and how Real Madrid are champions, and he's saying all the right things, and you can't even blame him because ultimately you have to tell the truth. But the last time a manager said that his team were underdogs, they lost 3-0. It was Thomas Tuchel.
Oh wow.
He had said Bayern Munich were underdogs to Man City. 3-0 scoreline at the end of the day. But yeah, you look at the struggles that Chelsea have, the form that they are in. Can't seem to create a lot of chances, can't seem to get enough goals. Defensively, they are a little vulnerable. You'd say, oh yeah, if you compare them to the Real Madrid side, despite all the Real Madrid side struggles, they're still underdogs, especially in this tournament as a UEFA Champions League. However, regardless of Real Madrid's pedigree in the UEFA Champions League, they too have their drama. Remember just this weekend, some guy called Chukwueze, who couldn't beat Guinea-Bissau, or he couldn't turn up for Guinea-Bissau, absolutely destroyed their team over the weekend. So they too have their own defensive frailties. They too all can be found out if the Chelsea front players have a good game. But the thing about Real Madrid is that they will let you score, but can you outscore them? Because that's what it usually comes down to. They'll be like, okay, you scored 2 goals. We still have 5 minutes of the match remaining. We can score 3, and they will. And that's where the problem is. So they will give up goals, but they score goals. And I can imagine Vinicius Jr. just looking at that Chelsea defense and licking his lips. In fact, he's picking his teeth right now because he anticipates that he would hit some defenders in the game today. So imagine him running at that defense and carrying Benzema, maybe doing something really exotic today. You know, there's a lot of desire for Real Madrid. There's a lot of hope for Real Madrid that they can get one over Chelsea. I think at the end of the day, Frank Lampard should put his side out and give them a I had a dream speech. He has to channel his own Martin Luther King, because there's no other way. What do you want to tell them? A Chelsea side that is struggling. What do you want to tell them that you think will make them step up against a team like Real Madrid? They don't have the number of Champions League titles that they have because it was a fluke. No. Look at last season. They had one of the worst odds of the teams that got in the quarterfinals to win the tournament. They won the tournament. So it's going to be a really tough task. And I know some people are saying just send out the starting lineup and pray for the rest of the match. But I think at the end of the day, they shouldn't go there thinking, let's do damage control. Because if they go with that attitude, the damage will be great. Try to compete a little bit, give Real Madrid something to think about. And you never know. You could have a Villarreal night on a Wednesday. So I think that's what Chelsea should try and do. All right.
Okay. AC Milan can expect a different approach from Napoli in their Champions League quarterfinal first leg on Wednesday. Now, there was a thrashing earlier, 4-0 in the Serie A early this month, and Stefano Pioli says concentration will be the key.
Exactly. So remember when they came back from the international break, AC Milan met Napoli, and AC Milan defeated Napoli by 4-0. And he's just simply saying, look, that was a completely different match. In fact, cancel it from your mind. In fact, get a therapist to erase it from your thoughts, because the Napoli we will see tonight will come with a completely different attitude. And I totally agree. Especially in the Champions League this season, Napoli have been impressive. Even in this Italian Serie A that they lost, but they've been impressive. Sad news for Napoli though. They would have loved to have Victor Osimhen in their starting lineup, but his injury has taken him out, which is why I think they may not give him back to Nigeria when he's fit. Yeah, because he came for international break and now he's injured.
Wow.
If Al cried in the night and the baby died in the morning, who will they blame? Al. That's what's happening here. So he's injured. It's such a crucial game. I mean, for the Italian Serie A, they could say they are many points ahead and they'll be able to cross over the line with him. But for the Champions League, it's a knockout stage. It's crunch time. It's a business end. You need your best players on the pitch. Unfortunately, he's injured. But it will be a completely different lineup. They're going to set up in a completely different way. It's not going to be that 4-0 drubbing that they got when they came back for the international break. And all he's saying, Stefano Pioli is saying, is that for the 93 minutes we are going to play, just concentrate fully. Everybody, do not lose your focus. Don't have any Upamecano moments. Don't have any Leroy Sané moments. Just focus on your focus. And I think ultimately that's the best advice he can give right now.
All right, let's go on to the next story. And this one is, well, still has to do with football, of course. Inter Milan struck in the second half through Nicolo Barella and Romelu Lukaku for a 2-0 win at Benfica in their Champions League quarterfinal first leg on Tuesday.
Yeah, unfortunately, the focus was on Manchester City Bayern, and rightly so. But Inter Milan slowly just climbing, going further into this tournament without anybody noticing them yet. And they came up against Benfica. They were the away team. You expected them to struggle a little bit, but they took all the firepower that Benfica was able to muster and throw at them. Onana made a last-minute save. He made a few saves on the night to keep the game the way it was. It was not the most entertaining or the most fantastic, but ultimately, what it was is that Inter traveled to Benfica and they came back with a 2-goal lead, which is brilliant for them. Happy to have a Lukaku in the side who's been scoring in recent games. Remember, he scored in the Coppa Italia to put them in a better position against Juventus, and then he scores in this game to give them a buffer, to give them the second goal. So they're going to be happy to get a scoring Lukaku. If you ask me, Inter Milan should be talking to Lukaku about staying, but so far they haven't said anything about extending his loan deal, because I'm sure that Lukaku will be very unhappy to go back to Chelsea. And Inter Milan, as is clearly obvious, they need him. So why not just extend the guy's contract and see where it goes from there? But yeah, they have a 2-goal cushion to take to Italy, and that's a good step in the right direction for them.
Okay, let's move on to this next story. And this one has to do with Australia ending England's unbeaten run with a friendly win.
Yeah,
friendly win.
It's still unbeaten run. They had a 30-match unbeaten run. I'm just like, who are all these people that they were playing that couldn't beat them? including the US. Why couldn't you beat them? But yeah, Sarah Wigman was taught a lesson by Samantha Kerr of all people, and it was Australia had to make the statement. Remember, they are host of the Women's World Cup, and so they want to keep they'll have the country behind them. They'd want to stay in the tournament for as long as they do, and they have one of the biggest stars on the team in Samantha Kerr. So fantastic one for them. They set up against an England side, and there's no better way to test your mettle right now than to step up against the current European champions and one of the favorites to win the World Cup. So it was a good win for Australia. They defended in the moments they need to, but you know, I would say this, maybe England underestimated them, because sometimes you could see that their build up was slow. The urgency that you usually see from an England side, they like to knuckle down and put in the work, wasn't really there. But Australia was like, which regardless of what it is, we are facing England, we play like we're facing England, and they played their game, won by 2-0. So yes, it may be a friendly, but they have won against England. It helps in their preparation for the World Cup, and Sarah Wigman can now tell her team, you know what? This World Cup is not only won by our physical attributes or my tactical input. It's also won by attitude. You have to have the right attitude every match. I tell people, every time you get on the pitch, every time you get in front of the microphone, try and bring your A game, because you don't know what day your breakthrough will come, and you don't know what day your helper will be listening to. So if you go on one day and say, I've been doing this show all the time, I can just do anything, that may be the day the person that wants to invest in you is listening to you. The opportunity passes. So I've put in my own motivational speech there. But yes, England didn't bring their A game, and Australia took advantage of it.
Okay, now New York Red Bulls forward Dante Van Zier has apologized for using a racist remark during his side's MLS game against the San Jose Earthquakes.
Yeah, so you just read through his statement.
All right, so Van Zier says he was deeply sorry and will agree to any suspension, fine, and counseling given by the league.
Exactly. I wanted you to read that part, because my eye rolled when he said counseling. You mean you don't know you shouldn't use racial slur? You need counseling for that. No, honey. Oh, no, honey. You can't get away with this. So now he's trying to say, I'm going to take classes. No. And I know people say, but Tega, at the end of the day, people still need all these anger management classes. They need all this anti-racist counseling and all those other. I'm just like, people are just badly behaved. Let's not. Stop making excuses. Look, It's the same thing I told someone that was saying about this anger management. I said, I've never seen anybody, step up to somebody that they know will beat them and say I was angry, so I slapped him.
That is true.
Usually, no
That's
matter
clarity.
Yes, no matter how angry some people are, when you look at the person that is annoying you, you decide on the moment, do I just want to walk away with my anger, or do I want to die here? Because I've never seen somebody angry enough. Just wake up morning, I'm so angry. Just go and slap Floyd Mayweather. They will knock you out. You will sleep for 2 days. Nothing is wrong with you. You are just recovering from the. So most in general, I mean, he says it in the match. The game was actually stopped. When the player came to complain to the referee that this is what happened, the game was actually stopped. But he denied it. He was like, I wasn't talking to them. I was just frustrated and I was letting off steam. And then they carried on with the game. So it was after all of course the report was written down, and so there would have been investigations, and there would have been some watching of videotapes. That's where all this apology is coming from, because he wasn't sorry after he said it during the match. He was still giving excuses, which is why his manager said, you know what, when I spoke with him during the match, I decided that I was going to play him, because sometimes it may come down to he said, he said.
Right.
Exactly. But ultimately they're dealing with it. So what it is that they're taking him out. He's not going to be playing till further notice. But we don't know how long that suspension was going to be and what the official punishment for what he did will be. But the good news is that there is something happening there. Again, it's better than what I've seen in Europe. That's all I can say, especially in Italy, because like I said,
this is really sad.
Italy actually upheld Lukaku's yellow card, which is red card. So he has a 1-match suspension. Now they're claiming that they're going to suspend, they're going to close some parts of the Juventus Stadium. But what it is that Lukaku was racially abused, but he's going to serve the same suspension as the fan that abused him. I don't understand it. I do not understand it. It's just like somebody stole my property, but I'm going to go to jail and serve the same time like the person that stole my property. What's happening here? All right, so we wait to see how Europe handles it. But so far, this is a step in the right direction, at least for the Americans. All right, and that's the much we can take. But before we go, let's take some messages. Cruz says,
Chelsea are not underdogs. Underdogs perform magic somehow. Chelsea are just victims. But we'll wait to see how it plays out tonight.
all right, and Tayo rounds up the messaging by saying,
Chelsea shouldn't be looking at anything again but how to plan for next season, unless they sign Chukwueze before the match this night. Okay.
Chukwueze, I'm sure that's what
Oh, okay, Chukwueze.
all right, and thank you for all your messages. Thank you for watching. Hopefully today we'll have some fodder for banter, or we'll have some fodder to cheer up, because Chelsea can also pull out a miracle. It's football. But for now, let's leave the studio for Zibby to take over.
All right, stay with us. Lagos Talk starts off in about